So, welcome everybody to our case competition, Dining Out with COVID-19 2021-2022. This is our second annual case competition. And today's event agenda will start off with some introduction of our judges and the team. And then we'll proceed with the team presentations as well as some judging for 10 minutes. So the two teams can just wait while the judges communicate and talk about who they will decide is the winner. And then we'll have our closing ceremonies.
Great.
So let's start with meeting our judges. So our first judge is Caroline Schnaider Brunstein. She's a CI Manager, Operations Excellence at Maple Leaf Foods, Inc. Would you care to introduce yourself, Caroline?
Yes, hello, good afternoon, everybody. I'm very excited to be here. As Jacqueline just mentioned, I'm Caroline. I've been working with food since I graduated from UofT in 2018. So I worked with cafe prior to that, so I do have some club experience in that sense. So in the food industry, I've worked with operations as well as product development, also all the innovation side. And I'm currently working as a continuous improvement manager at Maple Leaf Foods. And again, I'm very excited to see all your work here today. Let me know if you have any questions.
Awesome. So our second judge is Levente Diosady, the Professor of Food Engineering at our very own University of Toronto. Would you care to introduce yourself?
You just did it. I'm a chemical engineer, but I've been the professor of food engineering since 1980. I work in different areas of the food and in the food industry before I actually became a professor. So I've been here 50-ish years. So I'm pleased to be here and hear what you have to say.
Hooray. Our third judge is still yet to come, but he's Maharshi. Yes, he's the project engineer at ST. So pretty cool stuff, but I'm sure he'll join us later. So we will now begin presentations. So good luck, everybody. I will be putting you all into breakout rooms. And hopefully I don't mess this up. Okay. 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 So we'll start off with group 1. So I'm just gonna put Caroline and Levente in presentation 1, and we will begin the presentations with group 1. Sound good? Okay. So I'm gonna send you a breakout room invite. So okay. Sorry that the rest of you don't have much to do, so kind of just show up. But if you want, you're welcome to go watch the other presentation.
Oh, so we can go to the other room to watch the presentation?
If you want to, do you want to go?
Yeah, just because I'm in the marketing team, so I'm just going to make like a TikTok.
Yeah, sure.
Marketing, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. I'll send you.
So we're back in session.
Who won?
Well, you did. You're first.
Is everyone here? Team one, is everyone from your group here?
Hello. So one of our members' laptop died. Is like the power died, so he's just joining me on my phone.
Okay, no problem, no problem. Okay.
Did anybody here do the iron ring ceremony yet?
No, that's
did.
until our fourth year.
I know, but
I did.
Caroline did. So we had the perfect example of the perversity of inanimate things by the people being broken out. Right.
Okay. So
Okay.
yeah, one quick thing. Thank you all for coming. Both teams did amazing. One thing that we do at Cafe is we try to improve our events one by one. So please scan this QR code, which should lead you to a feedback form, and give us some feedback, please. So I'll give you about 2 minutes to scan the QR code and try to provide some feedback, and then we'll move on to the judges' comments.
I think the QR code is to the wrong Google form.
Of course it is. Okay. Yeah, must have changed it by accident. Okay. You know what? It's okay. We'll move on because the QR code is just not cooperating right now. So judges, please give your comments.
Okay, so what about we start with team one, and then we will, after both of us give the feedback to team one, we move on to team two. Does that work?
Sure, if you want to do it that way, go ahead.
Okay, first team. So outstanding presentation. Great job, guys. We saw that you prepared that show. It showed that you rehearsed and showed that the other slides were very well prepared as well and well thought out. What I like about the team was that you really defined what the gap was, and you defined the problem well, which I think it's, as a, let's say the customer, to me, that's very, very important. One thing I will say in the food industry is that we always try to do, hear the voice of the customer, explain what that is, and then we translate that in critical to quality metrics, right? So when you're laying out your objectives, we would love to see some very specific SMART goals with specific metrics, right? So let's say, in your example would be designed for 2 meters, right? So I said, as the customer, I want to make sure that I'm safe and well apart from my other fellow customer. So then you translate that to a goal of 2 meters, for example. I didn't see those kind of specific metrics. And in the industry, when we're designing, we want to, not over design. So that's why it's so important. In terms of the slides, I would love to see some legends or, some small words. When you're introducing the cul-de-sac idea, that was just cul-de-sac on the top. I didn't know if that was your solution, if that was like just a benchmarking. I would love to see some more information in the slide as well. And just on the innovation is one of the things that we're trying to, and creativity, one of the things we're trying to evaluate here. So I'd love to see you play with that name, right? Cul-de-sac is the one for the houses, right? So the urban space area, why don't you play with the name and do that for the food industry, right? Something on the creative kind of side as well. And I would love to see as well how you're incorporating, the design for all Canadians, right? In the sense of, are you considering, how is your design being inclusive? That's something that is very sparked during the pandemic, COVID as a whole. And I saw some very limitations on the layout. Like, are you considering handicapped, people or people with visual aids, right? So I'd love to see that incorporated in the design as well. So Professor, you may go ahead.
Sure. I'll be more general. Good for both groups. First of all, a presentation like this, you should number your slides so that your questionnaire can refer to what you have actually presented. So it's always a good point. I think for especially for group one, because you actually dealt with the physical space, you need to think about sizes and what they mean. I'm not sure that when you did the drawing, you actually visualize how big 2 meters is and how big the rooms were. The one where you had open seating, you had a huge empty room. It was, as I said, you left enough space for a 3-bedroom apartment for each individual person sitting at the wall. So having a better conception of the physical size of things on the diagram is very important. And when I was teaching plan design for many, many years, this is always the question is, how big is that thing that you put on the paper in physical space? And the closer you are to visualizing it, the better engineer you will be. So in terms of food science and food engineering specifically, I think our other judge, Caroline, has very well mentioned some of them. The primary concern is safety, even when it's not COVID. So the order of things is safety first, nutrition second, then profits third. Otherwise, you're going to be out of business in a big hurry. So you need to think in terms of, is your setup safe in terms of serving the food, in terms of moving the food around and moving people around? And you both thought about that, even though you haven't really brought that to the front as a key thing to think about. I'm how shall I say? I'm fairly incompetent in terms of computing and dealing with technology in that sense, while I'm quite competent in dealing with technologies in many other senses. When you presented the AI idea, it was something like we call the SAC idea. It was a good overall concept, but you didn't really go in to explain a little bit more detail on where the AI would come from. I'm making the assumption that you didn't really have any way of actually doing any AI stuff. But I thought that both groups, the basic premise they came up with was original. It was nice, and I think something to build on if you ever went on to do more of these things. And I hope you are both going to be interested in maintaining interest in the food engineering and food science and food industry side, and become competent professionals like your judge. The other judge is not me. I'm not necessarily in that side because I'm not in the business anymore.
I would like to also talk about group number 2, because I thought I was going to do
yes,
just a little bit.
Yeah.
So number 2, again, you also did an amazing job. We saw the effort that was put in not only the slide design, but also how well it was rehearsed and the idea was thought out. I would love to also see this very well-defined voice of the customer to design specifications. I would love to understand how that was incorporated, because at first you walk us through Emily's case, right? The student who was overwhelmed and she needed to find a spot. But I wanted to see, okay, so how did you take Emily's concerns into consideration? Like every single point that she raised, how was that incorporated in the design? I want to see more one-to-one kind of direct correlation. Especially because that's not my forte as well. It's not my expertise, specifically the AI technology, but I'd love to see how you took that into consideration while thinking, to develop this app. In terms of the food engineering aspects, I know that a spot is going to be available, but how can I tell it was clean or how it was, sanitized? I don't want just like any spot. I want a spot that it was, well preserved. I want to understand that the traffic of people as well, that was taken consideration. And another inclusivity, I think it's also inclusion, right? Something we want to see in the design as well. But overall, again, both teams did an incredible job, and we saw again the effort that it was putting, and especially you had 72 hours. That was very impressive for both of us.
Very good. Yes. By the way, look at your first slide. You had interesting use of the words, but the title is not the same as what's on the actual handheld device. You spelled it differently, two different places.
Nice observation. I saw that too.
Okay. So, Madam Chairman.
So if everyone is ready, we will now announce the winner. So
Some
the
drum
winner, the winner is team 1 and 2. So the judges were thoroughly impressed with both of your presentations, that it was very difficult for them to choose just one team out of the two of you. So you are both winners. Congratulations. Expect some e-transfers very soon, as soon as I've dealt with finance, as well as your refundable deposit. It will be returned very, very soon. So thank you for coming. I hope you all had fun, and I hope that you'll recommend future cafe events to all your friends. And I did link the feedback form in the chat, so if you all have the chance to do it, please do so.
If I could add, there is a third winner, actually. The whole area of food engineering at U of T was a winner by this thing that you've done positive service for it. So.
Yeah, so that will be all. If
Thank you. So we're leaving.
Yes,
See you
yes,
all.
I'll leave. So I'll stop the recording